Good morning to both of you, Ashu and Akhilesh. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to get to the meat of the matter, which is the conversation that we have today. And the very pinpointed topic that we had shared with you was the idea of the superwoman syndrome that many women do face and do adopt as a way of functioning. And Ashu, if I could come to you first to ask you, have you encountered the superwoman syndrome in your career and in your trajectory? And what was that journey like for you? If you could please share with us.
Yes, definitely. Because always, there's a pressure in terms of that you need to take more. How do you prove yourself? And not only at work, but at home also. I have two children, so, in terms of how you attend PTA meetings, how do you ensure that whatever small needs they have, that sometimes they lose a tiffin box or water bottle. These are small things, but it matters a lot. That is at personal front, and obviously, other areas with regard to overall managing the house per se, right? Of course, I have a very supportive husband, so that part was really taken care of. But at work, obviously, you want to prove yourself, you want to take up more, you want to excel in everything, whatever you take up, so that you can prove your mettle, and that's how you grow up the ladder, right?
Yes.
So that definitely was there, and there is no denial about it. I've gone through that stage, and I'm still going through probably. But what I've realized that I there should be something that I have to, uh, you know, come up with few things so that I balance it out. Okay, so like what I've started doing is I've started relaxing more. At earlier it used to be when I used to be at home, I always had that I have to finish some tasks. Like it could be probably as simple as cleaning the almirah. Okay, but that was like my task. I have to achieve it, and so those kind of things were there earlier, but now I have just realized that there's no point unnecessarily putting pressure on yourself. So I started relaxing by taking up some hobby classes. I tried everything.
Akhilesh, as an outside-in perspective, I would love to know yours in terms of, very often we talk about this being a woman thing where they want to do everything and they want to do everything well, and that is a certain unreasonable pressure that women professionals get saddled with. What is your take on it? Why do you think it happens?
So, like Ashu has said, Meghna, the point is that anyone, irrespective of woman or any gender, anyone can get trapped into this syndrome of
Yeah.
superwoman. Or so when you get into proving yourself, right, to people around, and to show that kind of potential that I can do anything and you can give me as much as you can, right? and
Yeah.
and this is not only for working women, right? At the women who are at home, who are managing I'll say bigger responsibility of home, right? They also get caught into it because there's so much multitasking is one thing, but whatever you are doing, you want to be the best, right? So if you want upbringing your child, you want to see that you want to give the best, you want to make sure uh, he or she, the child, right, is best in sports, best in extra activities and in studies, right? So
Right.
the working, not only the working woman, the women who are at home, who are managing, I personally feel it's a bigger responsibility than any profit. And just like Ashu said, people who are managing these two, right, professional side also and home, they get caught in
Yeah.
between, right? Because professionally they are there, and naturally, like when you're in a professional setup, right, it is always meritocracy, and you would like to be the best when you're working. It's when
Sure.
you're in the job, you can't say that okay, yes, I'm happy with getting a rating 3. If you get that also, you always see okay, where I have lacked, and why I can't get into rating 2 1, or why, if I have to get promoted, what are those additional responsibilities I need to take. So when we
Right.
get trapped into this, right, and especially why women? Because they have two sides. Whether you're working, you're not working, you have always multi dimensions.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. The need to say no, the need to prioritize, and the need to really not always compare yourself with others. I think those are some key points that you've made. And Ashu, I saw that you were smiling as well, probably in agreement with what Akhilesh was saying. But I want to go back to one point that I've been able to pull out from this. Ashu, you spoke about taking time for yourself to combat this superwoman syndrome. How would you think? I mean, logically speaking, one would say that's adding one more thing to your task list. But how do you think that helps or enables you to combat the superwoman syndrome?
Okay, so there's a little background to this. Okay, I'm just sharing my personal story.
Yes, please.
And it was some 7, 8 years back. And I was just, one day, I was just thinking that when I look back, I'm seeing myself sitting in the office only. I mean, that's what my life is become, because you come early morning and then you leave late. Somehow you spend little bit time with children or on weekends, and that's how. So I was saying that nothing more is happening in my life. And then it struck me like, what am I doing? I mean, it's been so many years, and I mean, life will simply pass, and I have not done anything apart from just work. And that is something which I need to really do something about it. So then what I started, every year I made it a point, I went on international holiday. It's not that India is not a great place to go, and of course that is also there, but that was something which I decided that I have to somehow take that break, whatever it is, however it is, whomsoever I'm going with. If even if my
Right.
husband is not able to join, or my family is not able to join, I had colleagues, I had my friends. So every year I made it a point that I have to go. That was one. And obviously, as I was telling you, I started taking up hobbies. I tried different things. I started going to theater. I, in fact, once I thought of taking up acting classes also. So I wanted to try everything and do, and whatever will give me little relaxation and fun at the same time. Because when once you come to office, there's something or the other you are always caught up in,
Yeah.
and trying to resolve things and all that, so it becomes difficult. So this is something, and it really really helped me. Okay, I and one important thing for me, which I started doing, is about self care. I
Right.
was very clear. I have to go on for every week. I have to go for spa. Probably some of these things could be. I mean, if somebody will, here he'll say, okay, what's a big thing? But it is a big deal. Taking out time and ensuring that you spend that time with yourself is a
Yeah.
major thing today. And there's no denying that there's a lot of pressure, but you need to take out time for yourself.
So spending time without a task and a to-do list in your mind, that's wonderful. I always find that, at that juncture, you sometimes forget to listen to yourself, and these are the times when you're able to actually start training yourself to start listening to yourself again as well. But Akhilesh, I want to ask you another question, which is, when people start their career, early career, for instance, and given the fact that we are now looking at the entire trajectory of women, um, we do tell young career, early starters that, hey, you need to prove yourself, you need to talk about your work, you need to be able to do this. And then as we move forward, we say that, okay, no, now start taking time for yourself, start learning to say no. So how does one draw the line between proving yourself and then going into that, falling off and going into that superwoman syndrome, for instance? So where do you think, when do you think people should start making those distinctions?
Right. So Meghna, I'll just give a bit background. So our country, the world has changed drastically, right, over the past 15 years, especially the COVID and other stuff which happened. So maybe Ashu will be able to relate to what I'm saying. So 15 years or say 20, 25 years back when I, started after I came from army and came to the corporate world, that time things were very different, even for women employees, right? Or say women who are into profession. There, the time was to compete with men. That whatever they can do, we can also do much better, right? And as such, the women professionals in niche, I would say, skills or areas which were mainly dominated by male, right, were
Right.
very few, right? And then the era of Indira Yogi and CEOs of various, or say, leading, women leading the business, right? Not only in specific to maybe certain functions, right? But finance, merger, acquisitions, big deals, right? And then slowly the transition has now, I would say, it is a natural thing today. So in India, right, while there's lots of things to be catched up, especially in tier 3, 4 kind of cities. But I think today the way we are structured is more gender neutral, right? We are seeing women professionals, as pilots, and that has been not today, it has been since last a decade or so. But the number of people who have started, doctors in
Right.
army, now in various arms, dealing, which previously was only being done by I would say men, right? So why I'm giving this background is that in early stages the challenges of the superwoman syndrome were very different, and it was sometimes in proving yourself professionally, right? In certain roles you want to go and lead, because there were no women. So there have been number one, or say first time women employees, or say women,
True.
managing this. And if you go back, 10 years back, you may get those news headlines: first woman to do this, first woman to head this business, first woman to be the CEO of a private sector bank, and so many
Right.
things, right? So that time the scenarios were very different, and I would say this syndrome was there, right? In because they had to compete professionally, they had to compete for the roles which were men dominated, or only thought that men can do, right? So it has moved from there, but still, right? To answer to your question, that why, or say, career break, things are, I would say, different from then. However,
Right.
now it has become to a level, because when it's like not between women and men, it is between what I can do best, where I can reach, or where I am competing with the best.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So, of course, Akhilesh has very well put the idea of self-awareness, self-compassion, or selfishness, whatever you would say. But Ashu, any practical tips you can give to the women, professional women listening in, how they can dispel this, take more delegation, ask for more help? Any practical tips that you'd be able to share?
Yeah. So what I started doing, one was, as I was saying, very clear that self-care. I mean, that is
Yes.
important. And that one needs to, because that itself also give you some kind of joy and some relaxation that will really help, right? Other important thing is that you should have realistic expectations from yourself. Okay, like
Right.
I'll just give you an example. My maid is not coming for the last 4 days. Okay, I have to do laundry, I have to do dusting and all that stuff. I can't do everything on every day. I can't do, so I'll have to choose what is that which I can do with the whatever time I have. I
Yeah.
need not take that pressure. Okay, now the house is not looking good. It has to be like that, right? In fact, in my earlier career, I mean, in my younger days, one of the senior most women, she told me that don't take any pressure and don't be in guilt anytime, because it doesn't help. And whatever you are required to do, you have to do, right? So
Right.
don't come into that guilt and the self blaming. Avoid all that. So that was somewhere stuck in my mind. Ki fine, if I'm doing it, some of the things probably I'm not able to put so much of an focus on specific area. It's fine, it's okay, I don't need to be beaten up for that. So this is fine. Other thing very important which I started doing is I started delegating.
Yes.
Major delegation. One is that, of course, you have teams, as you move up the career, and then you know which person has which strengths, and you capitalize on that, and you start delegating. And in that process, what happens, your team also grows, right? I mean, everything, if you start doing yourself, then why do you have your team,
Right.
right? So that is something which I definitely started doing, is delegating more. Also, as I was saying, in terms of realistic expectations, like I don't have to do anything and everything. And I understand, okay, this is the time I have, this much only I can do, and it's fine. I should be comfortable with that. In
Right.
my earlier years, I used to be self-critical, like, okay,
Mhm.
I couldn't even do this much and all that. But later I realized it just doesn't help, right? I mean, I will be just beating myself. It just doesn't help. So four areas which I talked about: one is self-care, realistic expectations, setting boundaries, and delegation.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing so openly about your own personal stories. Both of you have been doing that. So I want to just take a minute and say thank you for that. Um, Akhilesh, how about you? Anybody in your ecosystem, whether at work or home, that you think has been doing this well? And how do you think that has improved their work life or their quality of life? Any story? Of course, stories are very powerful. So anybody you can talk about.
Yeah, while there are lots of examples, sure, I won't be naming them, right? So people who have been able to successfully do this, right, is I would say in my past, like, organizations wherever I've worked, I think the balancing act, the person has been really successful, right, and at a leadership position, right,
Right.
because of the balancing act, and the and also one thing I would like to say is that the ability, right, to task people, right, and ask people. So there are two things, right? Sometimes what
Mhm.
happens is that we task people and then you don't ask. Ask is also a difficult question, right? And if they're not doing it, the tendency to add to छोड़ दे मैं ही कर देता हूँ, right? या मैं कर देती हूँ, right? And
Right.
what happens is that you start taking, right? If you have, say, once you grow, you may have multi say task functions or work which will be there. Now if you do this and you have four team members and you do this to four of them, that 20-25% of work will keep coming to you, and that will be the quality work, because that is where you will like to do कि यार ये सफर हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, so मैं तुम छोड़ दो, तुमसे नहीं हो रहा, मैं कर देती हूँ, या I will get it done. So that ask thing, I think the person whom I'm talking about was successful because while tasking, which Ashu mentioned as delegating, was very strong, but the asking was so super strong that people, and it's because you're working, you if the task has been given to you, right? There is if I ask that why this work has not been done or why this has not been done in this way or quality, right, is nothing wrong because we are all professional.
That's beautiful. I like that it's a memorable one, tasking and asking. Ashu, how about you? Any person or people that you think have been doing this well, that you can derive inspiration from?
Mm, See, they are there in all the areas. Like I've seen people at work, they are able to manage it. But I also feel for women in India, there has to be strong support system. I was lucky that I had my supportive in-laws, my husband. I had that support system of nannies being there when my children were small. So that is really, really that I would say that we are very lucky in India, because if you look at outside, it is very tough. Doing everything on your own without any help and then looking after your children, it's, I don't know how do they manage it, but it's really tough. So, and in each and every area, in fact, in my office, there are so many women, they're traveling from far off places, but still they're able to juggle and manage, home as well as, and they are at senior levels. It's not like they are just, they stayed where they were in terms of professional aspects, if you look at it. So I would not say one particular person, but there have been people, in and around me. So uh, that is really commendable. And I feel that somewhere I strongly feel that if you have good support system, it really, really helps.
We're talking about a lot of self-awareness. We're talking a lot about the kind of support system we need to build or we need to have, sometimes with luck, sometimes by actually working towards it. But as allies in an organization, and especially at leadership positions as yourselves, how do you think leaders or managers can enable people? Sometimes that self-awareness itself is lacking in women leaders. So how do you think as leaders, or what advice would you give to emerging leaders, for instance, that they can enable this kind of allyship, or this kind of awareness, that they build your support system and start looking at delegation, asking and tasking and so forth? So Akhilesh, I'll come to you first.
So I think, leadership plays a very critical role in this, right? Especially, I would not get gender biased here, but yes, for women employees, and that with the challenges which I mentioned, have to manage the both sides, right? The leadership has to have that kind of environment, right, and ensure, right, that the correct, I would say, tasking, work allocation, right, and because what happens as leaders also, a person who's doing well, right, you start giving the work to that person only. And so I'm in HR, and mostly in HR, I have almost my 60 or 70% of the team as woman employee, right? So when I start looking, and sometimes it also happens, and I'm telling you a very practical thing which happens, a person who is doing really well, and this is my go person, right? You start giving that person, work, projects, and all those stuff. It is good for some time, right? But I think as leadership, you will have to take that call that, the work allocation, right, has to be distributed, right, among the people correctly, right? While you may, while we say that, okay, yes, how the person will grow, those things are different. But what I'm saying, in a routine manner, this kind of stuff happens, and leadership has to play a very important role in making. And sometimes I've also seen that there's an attrition, and sometimes we say that, okay, we'll only go this year with only 10 people instead of 12 and 13, right? I think that actually puts pressure within the team. And such kind of stuff happens where a person has gone, and with the attrition level so high after COVID, we have seen that sometimes the temporary nature of work given to a person becomes a permanent work. And the second point is the environment. I think for women employees, you need to understand that there is, right, a need. If a person has to work from home on certain days, or there are challenges at home, that flexibility within the environment has to happen, and which is for any employee. So it can be a single parent also, which is in, we have those kind of people in our companies, and so we provide those kind of flexibility. But leadership, at a leadership or team head, people will have to see that such small things are also looked at. Sometimes what happens, these small things are ignored, and we think of larger thing, opportunities, giving, leadership position at women and all those stuff, right? But the small things which are routine matters, right, if they are not taken care on a daily basis, right, and you don't review it as leader, right, they can actually affect the mental and I would say the overall well-being of the team.
Thank you so much. Ashu, how about you? Any advice for emerging leaders on how they can enable more and more people to be balanced in this area?
Yeah. So, one thing which I feel is like what Akhilesh was also mentioning about flexibility, like wherever if possible, and if they are in need of working from home, and if you can allow that, that will be really good. That will be really great. See, women, frankly, personally, if you ask me, I'm a gender neutral person. In terms of competence is something which is important for me, not
Yes.
gender so much, right? So if someone is able to deliver on outcomes which are required, right, and at times you need to give them little bit flexibility of coming little late or going early or probably working from home, I think it should be fine. I mean, that is something which I would, advise emerging leaders, that they need to focus on outcomes, and also at the same time, in terms of little bit empowerment, little bit encouragement, and how women can be little bit more assertive, because now actually today's women are still assertive. I mean, I would not say that men are more assertive or women are not, but in our earlier days it used to be that you are probably still hesitating if you have to ask for leaving early because of your kid, or coming late. But now the times are changing, people are able to open up, and that we should continue and encourage. So be supportive, be encouraging, and in times of need be able to help people.
Thank you so much. I think we're almost at time, and I'm really really happy to get such great perspectives from both of you, and also very very authentic and original thoughts coming from both of you. I think one of the big shifts that I personally made is that I stopped looking at the Superwoman syndrome as a badge of honor, that oh, I can do everything, and I think that shift happening for more people sooner actually enables the environment to be more, higher functioning, more efficient as well. So here's more power to as many more young leaders, gender neutral wish for everybody there. And thank you so much for joining us, and hope you have a lovely day.